Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. I'm Alicia Esposito, Vice President of Content for Retail TouchPoints, and I'm super excited to be moderating and listening in on today's session, where we'll explore what retailers told us about their new approach to CTV advertising. For those of you watching this webinar that may be new to Retail Touchpoints, first of all, welcome. It's great to have you. When this session is over, I encourage you to join our community. Follow us on Twitter and LinkedIn, and of course, check out all the great content we have on retailtouchpoints.com. Our content includes everything from the latest daily news and breaking headlines to timely trend pieces, success stories, detailed benchmark research, reports, videos, podcasts, and even more webinars like this one. To make things a little bit easier for you, I encourage you to subscribe to our newsletter to get the latest news and content delivered right to your email inbox several times a week. In addition to all of our great digital content, we also do IRL experiences, including our Retail Innovation Conference and Expo, which is headed back to Chicago this June. If you're looking for more information, just go to that URL there on the screen, rice.events, and you will dig deep into our agenda, which includes sessions from executives at Dollar General, Coach, Walmart, Liquid Death, General Mills, Brookfield Properties, and so many more. And we're going to be digging into all things connected commerce. Now, before we dive into the content today, just wanted to give you a quick lay of the land of the On24 platform here. As you may have seen already, you can customize this platform experience to your needs. You can move and resize windows, make the video or slides larger or smaller as you like. I know we're going to be digging into some data today, so you may want to make those slides a little bit bigger. And there are a few interactive tools I do want to call out here to make your experience even better. There's the media player button for your video and volume controls. There is the Q&A box, which is where you can submit your questions as they come to mind. Like I said, we're going to be going into some data. You may have some follow-up questions or areas you want some clarification on. So I do encourage you to submit those questions as they come to mind. We will be having some Q&A time at the end, but of course, if your question does not get answered, we will make sure you do get answers after the session. Then we have a resource list where you can click through to download the slides and a few related resources provided by our friends at Mountain Research. And perhaps most important, at least for myself and my team, is the survey icon. You can click on that at any time over the course of the webinar today to share your feedback on everything from the content to the platform to the overall experience. Honestly, your input is super important to us. It makes the experience better for you. It helps us make the content better. It allows us to really just focus on improving our future events. So again, before you leave us today, please take a minute to share your feedback using that button. And finally, if at any point you have follow-up questions or challenges, just press that help icon and you'll be able to get some further guidance. All right, now I'm excited to officially hand things over to our speaker today, Tim Edmundson, who is Senior Director of Content and Research at Mountain. In his role, Tim oversees research, thought leadership, and analysis of the streaming, television, and media ecosystem. His experience working in the early years of connected TV advertising has given him a very unique perspective on the evolution of the medium and its opportunities. Tim, welcome. So excited to have you.
It's an absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to dive into our topic today. All right, so without further ado, let's get going on it. So obviously right there says, we asked some retailers what they're doing with CTV advertising, and we learned a lot of very interesting information. We're going to share that with you today. As noted, I'm your presenter. My name's Tim Edmundson, as also noted. And I think with my background working at Mountain, front row seat to the evolution of connected TV advertising, been with the company for over 7 years now. And it's been an interesting ride, just kind of watching the evolution of connected TV advertising as it's kind of started as a very small operation, growing into this monster of media that it's become with every major streaming service out there, a very much subscription-based area just a few years ago, now with a lot of ad support. And so with that journey has come the creation of something that we've developed at Mountain Research. It's an organization within Mountain that's devoted to just researching the space around connected TV. One of the things we've learned as we've grown alongside connected TV advertising is that marketers are very hungry for information. They want to know a lot about what this space is becoming, what it's capable of, what are the opportunities. And so we created Mountain Research as an initiative that is not focused on being salesy or really tied to what Mountain is doing on the business side. It's about providing just pure information about the space, educating the market, educating folks like yourself, and just making it digestible, making it easy to access, and that benefits not only all the marketers in the world, but also Mountain as well. So without further ado, we're going to get into the presentation here. So our key takeaway, it's always important to start with one of these. Our research here was around how retailers are leveraging television. This is an interesting time. Connected TV just very recently overtook traditional television in terms of hours watched mid-year last year, I believe in July. That's a big moment. It's kind of been in the works for a while, but in terms of overall viewership, streaming is it. This is the new dominant form of watching television. But we're still in a world where linear is a major player, and retailers have to navigate both if there's going to be a TV strategy included in their marketing mix. And so the key takeaway really today, after we go through some of this survey data, some of this research, is to really just use that information to kind of rethink how you think about TV advertising. It's traditionally been an awareness play, but with the rise of connected TV, you get a little bit more precision, you get a little bit more targeting and measurement, and frankly, it can be used as a performance channel. So I think the stats that we're going to review are going to definitely illustrate that. Speaking of illustrating it, here's our agenda. How will we go through this information? We're going to start off with how connected TV has changed retail advertising. We'll then get into how retailers, and why as well, how they're approaching these two channels differently, linear and connected TV. What does that look like? What are they taking into consideration? We'll explore that topic. Next, we'll discover how retailers are balancing the benefits and challenges of both. They both have strengths. There are certain areas that, if depending on what your marketing goal is, you should probably be looking at one or the other. So we'll dive into that. And then lastly, we'll get a bit into the technology aspect, the ad solutions that are out there. I made mention that this is a space that is growing. Connected TV advertising, in the long run, this is still the early stages of that. We're seeing a lot of the major streaming networks just launching their ad-supported options for consumers, and they are building ad technology right alongside the launches of those things. And they're still very early on. And when it comes to the technology for unlocking connected TV advertising, it's a bit of, there's a lot out there, basically. And some are more advanced than others. There's third-party options, so we'll explore a bit of that as well. All right, diving in, let's go. Connected TV and retail. So what's interesting there, and we've seen this a little bit on the Mountain side of things as well. Because connected TV is essentially a digital ad channel, it is attracting a wider range of retailers and advertisers. And that's because it really allows marketers in this space to precision target their audience and then track the outcomes of one of those ads once they're served. That is a big deal. TV, linear TV, traditionally, it's always been an awareness play, very top of the funnel. And for advertisers who have relied more on accountability and performance in their ad strategies, let's say relying on paid search and paid social, something where you put money in and you have a very strong chance to get measurable revenue back. TV hasn't been that appealing of an option. It just didn't have that functionality. With connected TV, however, you do have those elements. It has this digital advertising backbone that really makes it accessible to more advertisers, because you're able to not only capture the awareness, power, and prestige of a TV advertising, but also the measurable outcomes, the performance optimization that you're used to in other digital ad channels. Because of that, it's attracted more retailers, more advertisers of all shapes and sizes. Case in point, for Mountain, 66% of the customers that use the ad platform, this is their first foray into TV. That's a big deal. That means that this is changing how TV advertising is kind of being addressed by marketers. It's opening it up for more folks. And it's an exciting time for the space. And we'll see this a little bit in the data we're going to share, but the advertisers that are familiar with TV already, folks who have been in TV, have advertised on linear, there's a lot of similarity there. And so there's a comfort level, but also there's unique opportunities that folks are leaning into, and we'll explore that shortly. So speaking of linear TV, I made mention that streaming just finally eclipsed traditional TV in viewing hours, but that doesn't mean linear is going to go away anytime soon. Millions and millions of people still watch it. And so if you have a TV strategy, it makes sense to still incorporate it. But you have to balance the two channels in a way that makes sense. And the top level recommendation there is just playing into the strength of each one. Linear TV, it's just a great awareness channel, has a very broad reach. You have goals that pertain to that, makes sense to use that. Connected TV, kind of discussed this already, but it's very much digital, it's precise. Use that to lean into goals where you need to track revenue or you need to track website visitors, things like that. So getting into that promised research data. So we teamed up with our friends here at Retail TouchPoints to survey over 100 marketers in the retail industry and to just basically gauge how they are approaching TV, be it linear or connected TV. And I think the insights tell a story. I think that you're going to see that marketers already are starting to lean more into the strengths of each and really discovering more about connected TV as they become more experienced with it, leaning into its capabilities. But yeah, you'll see that in the data as we work our way through. So first question, first insight that we're going to cover here. We asked, do you currently advertise on television? And that could be streaming or linear TV. And you'll see half are advertising on both. And about 1 in 3 aren't advertising on either. And then you have the edge cases, around 9-10% CTV only, about 8 or 9% linear only. One of the interesting things I think here is that the folks that have advertised on linear before are also advertising on CTV. You're seeing that in that both category, right? It's more likely that an advertiser is using linear TV and then integrating connected TV because the jump is a little less intimidating. It's still a TV ad channel. And so you see those linear advertisers adopting connected TV at a pretty good clip. Only 8 to 9% haven't adopted it yet based on these results. Similarly, with CTV, you'll see it's a little bit higher, about 10%, 9%. Those are likely folks who've never advertised on TV before. And you're seeing that play out there. But also with the neither, we'll get into this a little bit later as to why folks aren't engaging with this space. It makes sense. It depends on what you're trying to accomplish with your strategy. We'll explore that a little bit more. But really, the key takeaway here, you can see it on the slide, CTV adoption has caught up to linear TV. If you're advertising on TV, there's a very good chance you're already advertising on CTV. If you're not, if you're watching this and you're in that 31.9% that aren't advertising, I think a big takeaway is that your competition is ahead of you in this field. And TV is a very impactful ad channel. It's prestigious. I think hopefully when you walk away from this presentation today, you'll have a lot of reasons to start to explore it as a possibility for your own marketing mix. So how are retailers seeing TV across these two channels? I think the real value is just aligning your goals. And I may have mentioned this before, but really leaning into what you're trying to accomplish with it. The thing that we learned from our survey is that a lot of marketers are trying to accomplish driving acquisition. They want to drive more website traffic, want to drive more store traffic. And as we get into the data more and more, you're going to see subtle differences that kind of illustrate the strength of CTV in doing that, not only driving that traffic, but doing so in a more precise and measurable way. So getting into the stats here, we asked marketers in the retail space, what are you using each one for? Where are you seeing impact? And we have a few slides here that kind of get into the details. And this first one is around that key goal around driving acquisition and awareness. And you'll see that linear TV edged connected TV out just a bit on both of these, around acquiring new customers and also high-level brand awareness. And this tracks for me. From what I've seen in this space, the high-level brand awareness and linear TV, that's decades and decades of how marketers have used that in the past. And so I think you have that legacy of what linear is capable of offering in a media mix. And so you see it being used more for that high-level brand awareness. The acquisition of new customers, it's more or less a dead heat. And so I think the thing here is that TV is being used to drive that new business, repeat business, et cetera. But linear is still kind of seen as that awareness play. Now, getting further down the funnel around driving conversions, you're seeing that connected TV actually outperformed linear when it comes to driving digital store traffic. So if you have a website, if you're an e-commerce platform, marketers who are using connected TV are seeing more value driving to those digital locations. And I think this is telling of what we've seen in our own experience on the Mountain side, where advertisers who have that digital background, remember, the majority of folks that work with Mountain didn't do TV advertising. This is their first time doing it. And so you'll have those folks who are doing social, doing search, they're digital natives. And that plays out in the data that we're seeing here. And this isn't a survey of Mountain customers, this is just marketers in retail. So our experience is very similar to what we're seeing in the industry overall. The physical store aspect, linear is beating out connected TV there. And so again, I think that's just one of those legacies of linear television, physical store locations. Brick and mortar has been around forever, still has the edge there in how retailers are approaching this. Around audience targeting. So I think this is an interesting point to pull out of this, is that connected TV, retailers are seeing the ability to target specific consumer sets. They're giving it the edge in terms of targeting capabilities versus linear. Reason being that connected TV is, again, it's a digital channel. On the Mountain platform, for example, advertisers, they have access to audience segments from the Oracle Data Cloud. This is a collection of a ton of audience providers. I think it's over 80,000 audience segments that they can choose from. And so if you are a retailer, let's say you're a sports retailer, and you're trying to find sports enthusiasts, you can. You search for that third-party audience, you look them up. Maybe you want to focus on lacrosse players or basketball players. You can. With linear TV, obviously audience targeting is more of a broad approach. You're buying time on specific programming or a specific network. Connected TV is an audience-first approach. You aren't pinning your media buy to specific content. You're pinning it on the audience. And then as they move around the connected TV ecosystem, jumping from streaming service to streaming service, your ads are still reaching them, regardless of what they're watching. And so it's that more direct route to your consumer that is a huge perk of connected TV. And our survey data shows that marketers are seeing that as well. Okay, so this is an interesting one as well. So I made mention that connected TV has that measurement aspect. So what that is essentially it's a data feedback loop. You're serving ads, you're seeing how they perform, you're able to see the actions a viewer takes after seeing your ad, visiting a website, converting, making a purchase. That provides a lot of information. Linear TV, obviously, not really possible. There are measurement methodologies on linear, but they aren't that one-to-one attribution. They're not that precise, to be honest. And so with that information comes, learnings. If you're that sports retailer and you are targeting lacrosse players and they are responding amazingly well, you just learned something. It's like, maybe we should invest more in lacrosse for some reason. Well, you have your reason because they are engaging with your brand. So it's those small learnings that you can take back from your campaigns. It turns it almost into not only just advertising, but a little bit of market research as well. You get more insight into what your efforts are doing. Take the common thread from whatever you're pushing, if it's a promotion or if it's a message, and then try to apply that into future campaigns. You learn a lot more about your customer and how to engage with them. Okay, so goals. Another part of our survey was around asking, okay, if you're going to be launching a campaign on linear or on connected TV, what are you trying to accomplish with it? And tell us what's most important to you. And it's an interesting thing where linear, number of users reached. Again, it's this top level awareness play. Makes total sense. The connected TV side, verified number of site visits was the top response. That shows that these marketers are leaning into that feedback loop, that they know that it's not just casting a wide net, reaching a ton of people, even though that is important. That came in at number 2 on connected TV side of things. But it's not only that, but it's also going the next step and seeing, okay, we reached all these people. Now what? Did they visit? Yes, you can find that out on connected TV. And so these retail marketers are doing that. And they're really leaning into that ability and taking advantage of it. The rest of them, I think you'll see that it's kind of more or less very similar, which I think speaks to the fact that going into TV advertising, there is a certain expectation around driving new business. I mean, that's what advertising is, right? But also, conversions, and revenue. And so I think this shows that there's a perception around what TV can offer you, and both are able to supply it. But with connected TV, you have that more accountable, attributable aspect to drive that information for you. So breaking this down, what does this mean exactly? Like I said, this is something where these KPIs show that they're very similar, but they're also distinct. The fact that revenue, if you notice, was not as high on the CTV side, that measurable revenue. And this is something we've seen as well as we've been working to educate folks in the market, is that there's not a full awareness of what connected TV is capable of. And this is an interesting thing. This is something that's going to go away eventually, but we're in this transition phase where more advertisers are getting involved with it and are really learning the ins and outs of what CTV can offer. And so that first point there on the slide, why is total revenue not ranking there? Not aware of capabilities. You can track. You can tie how much revenue your campaign has made. You can do that with cross-device attribution, with certain technologies, measurement solutions. That's possible. Awareness-focused CTV ad platforms, that's another thing. I think that when it comes to TV, there's this ingrained sense of this is an upper funnel awareness play. I've said that before, and I'll probably end up saying it again, but it does influence how people use it. And so early in CTV's life cycle, and still today, a lot of advertisers come in and think, okay, well, I'll just make this an extension of our linear strategy. But it offers so much more. And so while you can do that, it's kind of leaving options on the table. So that could be a big challenge. Again, if you just don't know, or you kind of have a narrow view of what you can do with TV, it's going to limit, what you want to do with it. And then last, and that last point I've kind of covered. It's just a linear TV mindset. But as we move through and education continues and more people get familiar with it, I think these things will start to go away. So getting into the folks that haven't really dipped their toes in the water yet. This might be you, possibly. You might see yourself in these stats here. 54% saying it's just not a priority. Smaller amount saying it's just not, they don't have the budget. Excuse me. And that last one, we did, but it just didn't perform well. It's the smallest percentage. And I think it's telling that, only a small group of marketers have, tried this, tested it out, and then it just didn't work for them. The fact that it's only 5% really goes to show TV is a very effective ad medium. And, if it's something that you've been hesitant to try in the past, there's a very good chance, statistically speaking, it's going to generate a lot of benefit for you and your brand. And maybe you have different blockers. Maybe there's other reasons you don't want to engage with it quite yet. But if you're on this call, I think you might at least be curious. So let's get into some of these reasons why folks might not be engaging quite yet. And if you see yourself in there, hopefully we have some information that helps make up your mind. So just the importance of it. It's just not a priority. And that makes sense. Everyone has their own strategies, their own goals. And as it stands, maybe connected TV doesn't fit into that. But a lot of folks, if you're not advertising on television, then you're definitely advertising when it comes to digital ad channels. And again, connected TV is a digital ad channel. It does all the same targeting, the measurement, the optimization. It's able to deliver on the goals that you're already likely trying to drive with other ad channels. And to be frank, a lot of folks who were in your shoes before have made the jump over. Again, 2 out of 3 advertisers on Mountain's platform, first time. They are now leveraging TV. They're using a video file that they were running on social, perhaps, and repurposed it for connected television, and they're reaping the benefits. And so you just don't want to cede that ground to your competition. It's good to try to be resourceful and find a way to get on connected TV, because it does definitely check a lot of boxes for what you're probably doing in your current strategy already. The cost aspect. This one makes a lot of sense. I think we're in somewhat uncertain economic climate, and so budgets are tight, or everyone's being very careful about their spend, and that makes sense. And so when you're evaluating where you want to spend your money, you need that accountability. And again, connected TV does offer that accountability. It has that measurement aspect. It allows you to cut out a lot of waste that would have been seen on linear TV in the past, where, if you're sending ads to anybody watching any show, you're getting a lot of, people who aren't necessarily going to engage with your brand. But if you're taking that audience first approach, you're cutting out a lot of the waste. Your impressions are being served to folks who are likely to see your ad and then take action. And I think that's really proven it out when you have the measurement aspect and you're able to see that for yourself. It makes spending money on CTV a lot more palatable and actually, exciting in a way, because, hey, you're making money. You're also able to find other ways to make sure you're spending right. A/B testing, if you're able to A/B test audience segments, you're able to A/B test your creative. So if you have 2 versions of an ad with a different CTA at the end, for example, run them both, and then track the performance for each. And then once you know which one is resonating more with your audience, keep running that one. It's these capabilities make the budget commitment, gives you more peace of mind when it comes to spending on this channel. So if budget is a concern, I'd say take those into consideration, especially if you're advertising for performance. If you're optimizing your campaign for return on ad spend, you're bringing more dollars in for every dollar that goes out. So hopefully that makes it a bit easier. And then resource management. If you don't TV is an intimidating thing, possibly. It's a new space. It has this established world that's been around forever. But connected TV is a digital experience, and so if you're using, Google Ads or something from Meta, you're very familiar with a self-serve ad platform. That's what connected TV offers. You're able to just do it yourself, and it's not that heavy of a lift. The Mountain platform is something where they've leaned into that quite a bit. And so, no joke, it's just a few steps. You input your budget, the goal that you want to try to drive towards. You upload your video file for your creative. You select the audiences you want to reach, and you launch. And so, the fact that TV has been simplified to that is pretty cool. And so, the fact that this is something that you're already doing with other digital channels, you likely have that skill set already. So encourage you to at least explore it. The rest of the challenges here. So we asked marketers, what are the challenges you're seeing with TV as a whole? And you can see the breakdown between linear TV and connected TV. Interestingly enough, the linear challenges are higher than the connected TV counterparts. Campaigns aren't as targeted as they should be. A little insight from campaigns and how they're performing. Not enough budget to test and invest. Those are challenges that are tied more to linear than connected TV. And I think that speaks to the fact that more advertisers are getting more experience with connected TV, seeing these challenges, these blockers kind of breaking down. It goes to show that it's TV advertising is becoming more accessible, which is exciting stuff. So getting into that testing element, I made mention of it a little bit earlier about A/B testing audience segments or testing different creative variations. The fact is that with your digital efforts, you're likely already doing some testing. You want to make sure you're spending wisely. The fact that you can make sure that you're applying what you're learning and making sure that you're leaving behind assets that might not be performing well, that's advantageous. That's really good stuff. And so what you're seeing with folks who are testing these things, we see this on Mountain platform as well, they are applying the learnings to other channels in their marketing mix. And in our survey with retail touchpoints, 38% of retailers are saying that CTV metrics are informing their broader omnichannel strategy. They're seeing what's working on CTV, if this video is working, and then they're applying it to social. They're applying it to pre-roll on video platforms. Similarly, 19% of retailers are saying they are applying those lessons to their linear approach. So the fact that it has this feedback loop, this data-driven feedback loop, you can make a lot of use out of that, and you can improve your other strategies and your other channels. And it's just a holistic boost to your marketing mix. So speaking of which, those complementary channels, they're using this information, kind of like what I was saying on the last slide, refining different strategies, using it to boost their CTV campaigns, adjust linear TV campaigns, et cetera. So, this is just more information on how marketers are doing just that. All right. So with the survey data complete, wanted to touch on the technology aspect. So at the top, made mention of how streaming is a kind of a nascent space in terms of advertising. And so there's different ways of approaching connected TV. So if you are focused on that awareness aspect, if you just want to reach as many people as possible, you can. There are CTV platforms out there and streaming services that you can work with directly, where their technology is built towards doing just that. They're focusing on reach. There are other solutions that focus more on the performance aspect, Mountain being one of them. This is something where it's going beyond what that linear approach is, which is, blasting out, reaching as many eyeballs as possible, and being more precise and more focused in what you're trying to accomplish, and using it to generate measurable returns, measurable site visits, return on ad spend, et cetera. That's important. And not only is it nice that you can generate a return, but it turns it into something that can be similar to search and social, where it's an always on ad channel, where you're just engaging folks. Because if your strategy is to reach people and convince them to take action, and it works, you're not going to want to turn that off. You're going to want to keep that engine running. And so there's platforms out there that do that. There's platforms out there that don't. They're more about the awareness angle. So it's important to take that into account while you're shopping around for CTV solutions in this space. And so a little bit more additional advice there. What makes up a good connected TV ad solution? Well, obviously, there's a ton of inventory out there. There's a lot of really great streaming networks, and there's a lot of great content. On the flip side, connected TV can kind of be a hazy place sometimes with OTT in the mix as well. And so there is premium inventory, and then there's just more, it's more akin to like traditional digital video. If you're looking for a TV ad experience, work with a partner that offers that premium inventory. That's a good question to ask. It's like, where will my ads be serving? Do you have a list of the networks where you're running? It's a fragmented marketplace. So not only do you want someone or a partner who is able to deliver to premium inventory, but to a wider variety of it as well. Again, if you're taking that audience first approach, you want to be able to make sure your ads are reaching folks where they're watching, and you want it to be, premium programming. So you need an ad solution that is also going to be able to leverage different data sources. Third party was something I mentioned earlier around, if you want to reach new audiences, leveraging third-party audience segments is the way to go. You also want to be able to leverage connected TV as a full funnel solution, not only reaching new audiences, but re-engaging your existing ones. So finding a solution that has that first-party data element where you're able to, for example, retarget shoppers who visit your website. Maybe they don't convert. Maybe they browse around, they look at some products, and they move on. You can reach folks based on the actions they take on your website. And so let's say they filled their shopping cart. You have cart abandoners. You can launch a campaign that will target the people who did that when they visited your website, in addition to other audience segments. And that can influence the kind of messaging that you serve them. So you want to find a sophisticated platform that is able to really kind of drill down into different audience segments, be it first or third party, because it unlocks a lot of opportunities for you. Obviously, conversion rates, that's a big one. Acquisition is a big one. You want to find platforms that can optimize for that and make sure that they prioritize those goals for you. Measurable return on ad spend. Again, if you're using this for performance purposes, you want to be able to know how much money is coming back in. So definitely look for like a robust measurement aspect, a very strong reporting system that tells you everything you need to know. Like that's crucial. And look for one that offers it in real time. Some solutions out there, this is a weakness where you serve your campaign and then you have to wait a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks to get information back. That's not good. All the stuff we've been talking about, what makes connected TV great. It's all about that data feedback loop. And I think the thing that makes that really work is that you get this information in real time. So you want to find a solution that has something that you can just log into and look at any time to see how your campaign is doing. And then also made mention of the evergreen aspect. If they offer flighted campaigns, great, but look for one that is able to offer an always on presence that can just keep engaging your audience and delivering your message. So this is the last one. All those things I talked about, this is the big reveal. Mountain does that too. And our folks that use the Mountain platform really do get a lot of value out of it. And all of the things that we're talking about just now are built into it. We've been around this space for a long time, and going back to what I was saying about tech, some solutions are still, they're building out their ad tech stacks. They're kind of finding their feet. if you're looking to get involved with connected TV advertising now, especially on the performance side where you want to drive these measurable outcomes, you should be looking for a platform that's able to do that. Mountain's one of them, but of course, shop around, look what else is out there, make it an educated decision. But just know that regardless of what you're trying to accomplish, be it awareness or performance, there are solutions out there for you. So, been talking for a while, sorry, but let's wrap it up with these key takeaways. That first one, successful retailers, they're approaching CTV and linear, and they're playing to their strengths. I highly recommend you do the same. Testing is more important than ever. Your budget, if you're worried about it or being very cautious, or you just need accountability with how you spend and you hold yourself to a high standard, there are ways to make sure that you're doing that with connected TV. So you have that as a bit of a safety net, and also just due diligence to be able to make sure you're spending them wisely. Without CTV, you're not just missing opportunities to reach your audience, you're giving your competitors an advantage. Don't do that. That's bad news. This is a competitive space. So, don't give the competition an easy win. Make sure you're on connected TV as well. We're seeing a lot based on our survey, 60% of retailers, 6 and 10, 3 and 5 are on connected TV. You should probably be too. And then lastly, it's just not enough to run CTV ads anymore. This is going into that performance angle. Make sure that you're driving, if you're launching a campaign, take advantage of what CTV offers. Make sure that you're optimizing for performance outcomes, be it a return on ad spend or a cost per acquisition goal. It's a really cool channel that allows you to do a lot of things. Don't treat it just like linear. You're just missing out. And I believe that's it. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. I'll kick it back over to Alicia.
Awesome. Thanks so much. So many great data points, and I feel like we could spend hours just peeling back the layers of all this research, Tim, but we are running low on time. I want to make sure we answer a few questions, so I'm just going to dig right in. I have someone asking about whether CTV is typically a channel that's embraced by younger audiences like Gen Z, and what are the retailers that target a more mature audience supposed to do? Does this tie to like targeting like you were talking about earlier?
Yeah, exactly. I think the generational aspect is an interesting story. Gen Z does. So actually, let me back up. Gen Z, and you think about their digital time, you're going to think like mobile, you're going to think social. And that is true for younger members of that generation. But an interesting thing, and I wish I had the data on hand, shows that as Gen Z is starting to grow up or get into their 20s, TV viewing is starting to increase. My personal theory, you have your own TV now and you have your own space. And so you can use the big screen. You don't have to just hide in your room with your phone. And so for Gen Z, reaching them, you totally can. And there's a ton of audience segments that tap into that. Similarly, if your focus is on older generations, it's the same story across every generation, really. The viewership is up across the board. And similarly, you can also target them as well, be it by interests, geography, not in addition to the age question. You get very granular if you would like to. So yeah, you can reach everyone.
Got it. So the high level age demographic is kind of like the first layer, right? And then you can get a little bit more granular depending on interest, geo, things of that nature. Awesome.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. And your points around budget definitely resonated with a few people. But this viewer calls out, I'm not worried about the budget for running ads. I'm worried about the budget for creating ads, which I know is a hot topic and a hot button right now for a lot of our readers. So any tips for making affordable CTV ads from a creative standpoint?
Definitely. So, going back to what we've seen at Mountain, folks getting the TV the first time, one of the hacks they've used is repurposing existing video assets. That is always, that's a gimme, and highly recommend that you look at what you have already, maybe make some edits to it, add a CTA at the end, make it work for TV, but definitely look at what you already have. The other thing, if you're looking to create net new assets. The good news is that TV production or ad production costs have been dropping year over year, just industry-wide. But this is another aspect that, again, I think Mountain has a unique perspective on this. We work with a lot of advertisers who this is a challenge for, and you just said your reader base is the same story. So there are more emerging solutions to be able to produce effective but affordable creative at scale. There are marketplaces that are just like creator based, where you can go and request a video project and get something back. I mean, Mountain, this is going to be promotional, I apologize, but like we've been focused on this. So Quick Frame by Mountain is something that is one of those creator marketplaces. You need a video ad, you can get one, run through a brief, etc., and you get it quickly and affordably. Similarly, there's something called Creative as a Subscription, where it bundles the cost of media into your creative. So you're essentially getting the ads at the cost of what you'd spend in the media. It's an innovative approach. And I think this is something, we're at this point where this needs to be solved. And so look for solutions like that. They are out there. Mountain offers them. I'm sure others do too. But obviously come to Mountain first. But yeah, I think there are solutions available to solve the creative issue.
No, it's great. So digging a little bit further into that point around repurposing content, I think there is definitely value around reusing social content in particular, right? If it's user-generated content or influencer-generated content, because so many consumers crave that authenticity. And I guess it ties into this other question that kind of stood out to me around how CTV can or should align and complement the campaigns that are being done digitally. And Tim, I know that's something that we talked about when we were putting the report together. So can you expand upon some of those tips or best practices a bit?
Definitely, yeah. So I think that continuity around your ad strategy makes sense from a creative standpoint. You'll want to, and I think this is proven out, that TV can act as the anchor for a strategy where, this is your prestige ad channel. You have a message you want to deliver it, and then expand it into other places. And so people spend a lot of digital time in a lot of different areas. They're going to spend it watching TV or streaming TV rather, but then chances are they have their phone in their hand while they're doing that. They're going to be going into social platforms and messing around there. So you want to find a way to kind of bridge all of that. And you should be approaching your strategy omni-channel by default. So if you have a CTV ad that's running, make sure that you have related, display banners or social that are tying into that same message. Create that uniformity. One of the interesting things, you want to mix it up though and make it apply to be a more native experience, depending on the ad channel that you're on. For example, I think one of the things we've seen is that TikTok has become kind of an incubator for just like, let me rephrase that. It's a good place to try like your weirder ideas, because I think that's kind of the native experience there. TikTok has a vibe. And so lean into that, make your creative approach a little bit more bold there, but still tie it into your overall message. And yeah, just create that uniformity and make sure that if you're engaging someone, no matter where they're spending their time online, you're hitting them with the message that you want them to see.
Awesome. Great tips. And I know we're a little bit over, but I want to squeeze this one question in because I think it's an important one. So this viewer said they're a regional retailer. What is a good benchmark or indicator for knowing when we're ready for CTV advertising?
Honestly, now is probably the benchmark. We've worked with a lot of regional retailers in the past, and I think the geo-targeting aspect lets you narrow your focus, because everyone's watching streaming all over the country, right? Or all over the world. But especially if you are brick and mortar and you have certain locations, you want to be able to focus your audience targeting to the places where someone is likely to walk into your store or knows your brand. And you can do that. And again, like if the budgeting aspect is of concern, know that there are a lot of ways to justify that, if you're the decision maker. or you need to pitch the decision maker, know that you have numbers to back up your decision.
Awesome. Well, Tim, it has been a real pleasure digging into this data with you. I know we had a lot of fun working on the research together. And shameless plug, we are working on some more research around some of the topics I think that we alluded to a little bit around repurposing content, creating that continuity across channels. So folks, be on the lookout for that research to come soon. And if you haven't downloaded the report, we encourage you to do so. Tim, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time out to present some of the key findings, offer some analysis, and some pointers along the way as well.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And to all of you, again, if you asked a question and we couldn't get to it, I know there was a lot of ground to cover. Just hang tight. Our team is going to go through the reporting, the questions. So we'll make sure that we connect you directly to either Tim or someone else from the Mountain Research team. We'll make sure those questions are answered and those conversations continue, because we think this is such a fun and hot topic right now, and we want to make sure that those discussions continue. Of course, you will get a link to the on-demand session if you want to go back to the content and takeaways, or even share with a team member. And of course, again, if you haven't downloaded the research, definitely do so. That'll provide some extra insight and some detailed graphics to expand upon some of the things we talked about today. But for now, that's it from us, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Take care.